Ever wonder what really goes on in a therapist's office when the patient is a child? It's not all couches and tell me about your mother.
Right.
Today we're diving deep into child and adolescent psychotherapy,
Okay.
unpacking the major approaches therapists use
Yeah.
and why this matters even if you're not a therapist.
Okay. Yeah.
You've given us quite the reading list, articles, research, even some personal notes.
Okay.
So let's get started.
Yeah.
We're going to uncover some fascinating stuff.
Right?
Play therapy, where toys become powerful tools,
Okay.
and how even teenagers' seemingly rebellious behavior can actually be a sign of healthy development.
What's intriguing is that tailoring therapy to a child's developmental stage is a relatively recent development.
Oh, okay.
It signifies a real shift in how we understand the young mind.
So first things first,
Yeah.
how do we even define psychotherapy for children and adolescents?
It encompasses a range of techniques,
Okay.
all based on communication, to help kids and teens who are struggling with their emotions and behaviors,
Okay.
and the communication methods adapt to the child's developmental level.
Got it.
It's not always about talking, especially with younger children.
Yeah.
Playing, drawing, even just pretending. These
Right.
become vital ways for them to express themselves and work through their issues.
So how do therapists make sure they're getting it if the child isn't talking directly about their feelings?
Think of it this way.
Okay.
Therapy is meeting them where they are developmentally and using the tools they're already comfortable with.
Okay.
The goal is to provide support, help them resolve conflicts,
Yeah.
and teach new ways to cope with challenges,
Okay.
all in a way that makes sense for their age.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not about expecting a 5-year-old to suddenly have the emotional regulation of an adult.
Right.
It's about giving them age-appropriate tools and strategies.
Exactly.
Now, the sources you gave us mention 3 main approaches. Psychodynamic play therapy.
CBT
Okay.
and family therapy.
Got it.
Before we dive into each one,
Yeah.
is there a common thread that runs through all of them?
It's vital to understand that none of these are one-size-fits-all solutions.
Okay.
Each child is different.
Mm-hmm.
So therapists tailor their approach based on individual needs,
Right.
developmental stage,
Okay.
and personality.
Got it.
Yeah.
So let's start with psychodynamic and play therapy.
Okay.
Using play as a window into a child's world.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about this one. How did it even come about?
Well, the roots go all the way back to Sigmund Freud.
Okay.
You might have heard about little Hans, the boy with a phobia of horses.
Right.
Freud used the boy's play to understand his anxieties and fears, essentially pioneering child psychoanalysis.
Wow. Talk about a historical deep dive.
Yeah.
But I imagine things have evolved quite a bit since Freud's time.
Oh, absolutely.
Is the focus still on interpreting the hidden meaning of every toy the child picks up? It evolved significantly.
Right.
Initially, it was all about decoding symbolic meanings in the child's play.
Right.
But now it's less about interpretation
Okay.
and more about facilitating a child's ability to express and understand themselves through play.
So instead of relying on the therapist's interpretation, they discover their own solutions.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
It allows the child to be an active participant in their own healing.
Okay.
By expanding their play and imagination.
Right.
They gain insights and coping skills they might not have accessed through traditional talk therapy.
But how does play actually help a child work through their issues?
The sources point to the powerful connection between play and early relationships,
Okay.
especially with the mother. Those early interactions shape a child's capacity for play,
Okay.
which in turn helps them develop a sense of self and understand that their mind is separate from others.
So those seemingly simple moments of playing peekaboo or building blocks actually lay the foundation for complex emotional and social development.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
It is, and it highlights why building a strong relationship with the therapist is so vital in play therapy.
Okay.
Putting feelings into words can be scary for anyone, but especially for a child who might have had difficult experiences.
Right.
A trusting relationship allows them to express themselves through play without fear of judgment.
The therapist creates a safe space for the child to open up, even if it's through toys instead of words.
Exactly.
What about the parents?
Yes.
Are they involved in play therapy?
The role of parents has evolved, too.
Okay.
It used to be viewed as separate from the child's therapy,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's considered crucial for long-term success.
Okay.
Selma Freyberg,
Yeah.
a pioneer in infant mental health,
Okay.
demonstrated the power of having babies present in therapy sessions with their mothers.
Huh.
It allowed for a deeper understanding of the mother-infant relationship
Okay.
and helped facilitate change.
So instead of keeping parents at arm's length, therapy now recognizes them as partners in the process.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
considering how vital those early relationships are.
Exactly.
And involving parents in therapy isn't about placing blame.
Mm-hmm.
It's about equipping them with a deeper understanding of child development.
Right.
When parents can separate their own issues from their child's genuine feelings,
Mm-hmm.
it changes how they respond to behavior at home,
Right.
making them better equipped to provide support and set healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
It seems like the focus isn't just on addressing a specific problem,
Right.
but on building stronger parent-child relationships in the long run.
Exactly.
Now, let's switch gears to a more familiar approach,
Yeah.
at least in the adult world,
Yeah.
cognitive behavioral therapy,
Mm-hmm.
or CBT.
Right.
How does CBT for kids differ from what we typically hear about?
CBT is unique because it combines behavioral science,
Okay.
social learning theory,
Uh-huh.
and cognitive theories, making it a very research-grounded approach. One of the earliest forms,
Yeah.
behavior modification,
Okay.
focuses on using rewards and consequences to change unwanted behaviors.
Could you give me an example of how that might work in practice?
Imagine a child who throws tantrums to get attention
Okay.
with behavior modification.
Mm-hmm.
Parents are taught to ignore the tantrum behavior instead of giving in
Got it.
by removing the reward,
Yeah.
the attention.
Right.
The tantrum behavior gradually fades away.
So it's about understanding the underlying patterns
Mm-hmm.
and changing the dynamics that reinforce those unwanted behaviors.
Exactly.
And parent training,
Right.
which builds on these principles,
Mm-hmm.
is widely used.
Yeah.
It's very practical,
Mm.
often using video examples
Mhm.
and focusing on modifying parent-child interactions.
Right.
So it's not just about telling parents what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's about giving them concrete tools and strategies.
Exactly.
What about individual CBT for children?
Yeah.
Is it the same as adult CBT? Just scaled down.
While individual CBT for children shares core principles with the adult version,
Okay.
tailoring it to a child's developmental stage is vital.
Right.
Just like with play therapy, we have to consider where they are cognitively.
Yeah.
The focus here is on understanding the child's thoughts, feelings,
Okay.
and behaviors in specific situations,
Got it.
and then equipping them with new skills to handle challenges.
While play is naturally a part of childhood,
Right.
how do therapists ensure those play sessions are structured enough to achieve therapeutic goals?
Think of the therapist as a sort of sports coach.
Okay.
They guide the child in practicing and applying new skills,
Mhm.
just like a coach would train an athlete.
Okay. Yeah.
For instance,
Mhm.
helping them identify their emotions and learn techniques to manage anxiety in real-life situations.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It emphasizes that therapy is an active process,
Uh-huh.
not just talking about feelings.
Yeah.
But we mentioned that adapting CBT for children requires a different approach.
Right.
How do therapists account for those developmental differences?
Well, younger children might not be able to articulate their thoughts abstractly like adults do.
Right.
They might express themselves through play or storytelling
Hmm.
rather than engaging in deep discussions.
So it's about meeting them where they are developmentally
Uh-huh.
and adjusting the techniques accordingly.
Right.
That requires a deep understanding of how children think and learn. And speaking of different ways of approaching therapy,
Yeah.
we still need to explore the fascinating world of family therapy,
Okay.
where the focus shifts from the individual to the entire family system.
That's where things get really interesting because it challenges the assumption that the problem solely resides within the child.
We left off talking about how family therapy challenges the idea that the problem lies solely with the child.
Right.
It's about recognizing that family dynamics play a huge role.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated by this approach.
Yeah.
What are the core principles behind family therapy?
The central idea is that problems in children often stem from unhealthy patterns within the family system.
Okay.
It's not about pointing fingers,
Yeah.
but about understanding how interactions and communication patterns within the family might contribute to the child's struggles.
So it's not blaming families, but acknowledging that they are a system where everyone impacts everyone else.
Exactly.
But families come in all shapes and sizes these days.
Yeah.
How does family therapy address that diversity?
It respects the diversity of family structures.
Okay.
It works with whatever configuration the child is a part of.
Got it.
Whether that's a traditional nuclear family, a blended family, single-parent families, or same-sex couples raising children.
So it's adaptable to the modern realities of family life.
Right.
And within family therapy, are there different approaches? You mentioned structural, solution-focused, and narrative therapy. Can we break those down a bit more?
Of course.
Okay.
Structural family therapy, for example, looks at the family's organization, their boundaries, and their decision-making processes.
Got it.
It can be quite a directive approach.
Directive in what sense? Does the therapist act as a kind of referee? Stepping in to change how they interact?
It's not so much about being a referee, but more like a coach.
Right.
Who helps the family restructure their interactions.
Got it.
They might use techniques like role-playing to help families practice new ways of communicating. For example, if there's constant conflict between siblings, the therapist might guide them through a role-playing exercise where they practice expressing their needs and listening to each other.
So it's about creating healthier communication patterns. And more balanced relationships within the family.
Exactly.
That's a really interesting way to approach it. What about solution-focused therapy? What sets that apart?
Solution-focused therapy operates on the belief that families already possess the solutions within themselves, even if they aren't aware of them yet. Instead of dwelling on problems, the therapist helps them identify and amplify those existing solutions.
It seems like this approach would be particularly helpful for children who often feel blamed for problems. It shifts the focus to their strengths and empowers them to be part of the solution.
You're absolutely right. It can be very empowering for children and families to see themselves as capable of change. Then there's narrative therapy, which offers a unique perspective.
Narrative therapy.
I
haven't heard much about that one. Can you elaborate?
It's based on the idea that we all construct stories or narratives to make sense of our experiences in narrative therapy. The therapist works with the family
to reframe their problem stories into more positive and empowering narratives.
It sounds like changing the narrative can change the whole dynamic. Could you give us an example of how that might work?
Let's say a family constantly describes their child as difficult or a problem. This label can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Narrative therapy might use a technique called externalization, where the problem is separated from the child.
Got it.
For example, instead of saying Johnny is a problem child, they might say the anger is causing problems for Johnny.
Got it.
It can reduce blame and help the family work together to manage the anger.
So it's not about denying the problem, but about changing the language and perspective to create a more positive and collaborative environment. That's fascinating. Now, we've talked about therapy for younger children.
But the landscape shifts dramatically when those kids enter the teenage years.
Absolutely.
Adolescence presents a whole new set of challenges for therapists.
Teenagers aren't just small adults. Their brains are still developing, their hormones are surging, and their sense of self is in constant flux. All of these factors impact how they experience the world and how they respond to therapy. So adapting therapeutic approaches to meet the unique needs of adolescents is essential.
We touched on this earlier, but what are some key developmental considerations that therapists need to keep in mind when working with teenagers?
Puberty is a significant one.
Okay.
The physical changes of puberty can impact teenagers on multiple levels.
Right.
They're dealing with changes in their bodies, their appearance, and even their social standing amongst peers. All of this can impact self-esteem, relationships, and overall emotional well-being.
I remember feeling incredibly self-conscious and awkward during puberty.
Yeah.
It's a time of so much change and uncertainty.
Right.
How do therapists navigate that with their clients?
It's about creating a safe space for them to discuss these changes openly and honestly without feeling judged.
Right.
They need to feel understood and validated.
Okay.
During this time of immense personal change.
Got it.
Therapists need to be sensitive to those feelings of insecurity and vulnerability, ensuring that teenagers don't feel alone in their struggles.
So it's not just about fixing a specific problem. It's about supporting them through this period of intense growth and self-discovery.
Exactly.
And as they go through puberty, their cognitive development is changing too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Teenagers develop the capacity for more abstract thought and reasoning.
Okay.
This allows them to think critically, consider different perspectives, and engage in more complex conversations, which can make therapy more nuanced and potentially more impactful.
That sounds like a positive development.
It is, but this cognitive shift also has a downside.
Okay.
Teenagers can become very self-focused, believing their experiences are unique, and that everyone is judging them. It's classic adolescent egocentrism.
Ah, the imaginary audience.
Right.
I remember feeling like everyone was scrutinizing my every move in high school.
Yeah.
It's hard to be objective when you feel like you're constantly under a microscope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can impact the therapeutic process.
Okay.
Teenagers might be hesitant to open up for fear of judgment.
Right.
Or misinterpret the therapist's intentions.
Got it.
Leading to misunderstandings or resistance.
It sounds like therapists need a lot of patience and specialized skills to work with teenagers.
They do. It's crucial to be aware of these cognitive tendencies and adjust the communication style accordingly. They might use humor, metaphors, or real-life examples to connect with teenagers and make abstract concepts more relatable.
Okay.
It's about speaking their language and meeting them where they are.
Speaking their language and building trust must be key when you're dealing with teenagers who are naturally pushing for independence.
You've hit a critical point.
Okay.
Teenagers are driven to become more autonomous, to separate from their parents, and establish their own identity.
Yeah.
It's a healthy and necessary process.
Okay.
But it can also lead to conflicts and rebellion.
It's that classic push and pull of adolescence.
Right.
Wanting freedom, but still needing guidance.
Exactly.
How does that impact therapy?
Teenagers might initially resist therapy, seeing it as another form of adult control.
Got it.
Or they might be guarded about what they share, wanting to protect their privacy and maintain a sense of control over their lives. It's a delicate balance.
The therapist needs to respect their desire for independence while still providing the support and guidance they need.
Right.
I imagine it's not always easy.
It definitely requires sensitivity, empathy, and a genuine understanding of the complexities of the teenage experience.
Yeah.
It's a dance of building rapport while respecting their boundaries.
Okay, so we've talked about some key developmental considerations.
Yeah.
But adolescence isn't just about navigating hormonal changes and pushing for independence.
Right.
There are also specific issues that therapists need to address.
Absolutely.
While we briefly touched on depression and anxiety earlier, the emotional and social landscape of adolescence is vast, and therapy often delves into a range of other challenges.
Right.
Self-esteem must be a big one during the teenage year.
Oh, absolutely.
With all the pressure to fit in and the constant comparisons to others.
Adolescence is the time of intense self-scrutiny.
Right.
Teenagers are bombarded with messages about how they should look, act, and achieve, which can significantly impact their self-worth.
Okay.
Social media, with its curated images of perfection, often amplifies these feelings of inadequacy and insecurity.
It creates unrealistic expectations and makes it hard for teenagers to feel good about themselves when they're constantly comparing themselves to others.
Right.
How does therapy help teenagers who are struggling with self-esteem?
Therapy provides a space to explore those negative self-beliefs and challenge them.
Got it.
The goal is to help teenagers develop a more compassionate and realistic view of themselves.
Right.
Recognizing their strengths, appreciating their uniqueness,
Yeah.
and building self-worth.
Okay.
That's not dependent on external validation.
It's about shifting the focus from external measures of worth to internal qualities and strength.
Exactly.
It's such an important message.
It is.
Especially in today's world.
Yeah.
And as teenagers grapple with self-esteem,
Right.
they are also working through Another significant developmental task.
Yeah.
Identity formation.
Exactly.
Figuring out who they are,
yeah,
what they believe in,
right.
and where they fit in the world is a central theme of adolescence.
It's like they're trying on different versions of themselves.
Right.
Experimenting with different interests, styles,
Okay.
and friend groups.
Right.
But all that experimentation can be confusing and overwhelming at times.
And therapy can provide a safe and non-judgmental space for teenagers to explore those different aspects of themselves, helping them to understand their values, interests, and goals, and to integrate those into a cohesive sense of self.
So the therapist helps them navigate that messy, sometimes chaotic process of self-discovery.
Yes, and for some teenagers,
that journey involves exploring their sexual orientation or gender identity.
Right.
This can be particularly challenging, especially if they're facing societal stigma or lack of support from their families.
They need a safe and affirming environment to process those feelings and figure out who they are without judgment.
Exactly.
Therapists specializing in working with LGBTQ plus youth can be invaluable in this process.
Yeah.
They offer guidance and support, helping teenagers navigate the complexities of coming out if they choose to do so, and empowering them to embrace their authentic selves.
It's about providing a space for them to be themselves without fear of rejection or judgment.
Right.
And relationships in general must be a huge part of therapy for teenagers.
Absolutely.
Whether it's navigating friendships, dealing with romantic relationships, or resolving conflicts with parents, relationships can be a minefield at this age.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. A time of intense social and emotional development.
Right.
And therapy can equip teenagers with the skills to manage these complex relationships. They might learn communication skills, conflict resolution strategies, or how to set healthy boundaries.
Got it.
All of which are essential for building strong and healthy relationships throughout their lives.
So it's like a crash course in Relationship 101.
Right.
Giving them tools they can use in all areas of their lives.
Exactly.
But it's not just about the internal landscape of emotions and relationships.
Yeah.
Teenagers are also facing pressure from the outside world.
That's an important point.
Okay.
Academic pressure can be immense.
Right.
There's a constant emphasis on good grades, college admissions, and future success.
Yeah.
Which can create a lot of stress and anxiety.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
The pressure to achieve is so high these days. And it starts earlier and earlier.
Right.
How do therapists help teenagers manage that pressure?
They help them develop coping mechanisms for stress and anxiety. They might work on time management skills, study strategies, or ways to challenge perfectionistic thinking. But it's not just academic pressure.
Right.
Teenagers also face societal pressure to conform to certain ideals.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure to look a certain way, to wear the right clothes, to be popular on social media. It's relentless.
It is.
And I imagine it's hard for teenagers to develop a healthy sense of self when they're constantly bombarded with those images and messages.
It can be incredibly challenging.
Right.
And these societal pressures can lead to body image issues, eating disorders, or substance abuse as teenagers try to cope with the overwhelming pressure to fit in.
So it's not just about addressing emotional issues. Therapy for teenagers often involves helping them navigate the complexities of the outside world and develop a sense of resilience in the face of these pressures.
You're exactly right. And for some teenagers, these external pressures might manifest as risky behaviors. They might engage in substance abuse, self-harm, or reckless driving as a way to cope with difficult emotions or escape from a stressful situation.
It's like they're sending out a distress signal.
Exactly.
The way of saying, I'm struggling and I need help.
And it's essential for the adults in their lives, parents, teachers, therapists, to recognize these warning signs and intervene early. Therapy can play a crucial role in helping them address the underlying issues, develop healthier coping mechanisms, and get back on a positive path.
So while adolescence is a period of natural exploration and pushing boundaries, it's also a time when teenagers need support and guidance to make healthy choices.
Exactly.
But how can parents and caregivers know? When typical teenage behavior crosses the line and becomes something more serious.
That's a crucial question.
Okay.
There are some red flags to watch out for.
Got it.
For example, if you notice significant changes in mood or behavior that last for more than a couple of weeks. Or if your teenager is having trouble functioning at school, at home, or in social situations, that's a sign that something might be wrong.
So it's not just about the occasional bad mood or disagreement with friends. It's about persistent changes that are impacting their ability to function in daily life.
Exactly.
Other red flags include withdrawal from activities they used to enjoy, loss of interest in things they used to care about, changes in sleep or appetite, and especially any thoughts of self-harm or suicide.
Those are serious warning signs that shouldn't be ignored.
It sounds like parents need to trust their instincts.
Absolutely.
And seek help if they have concerns.
It's always better to err on the side of caution.
Right.
If you're worried about your teenager. Reaching out to a mental health professional is a sign of strength and care. They can assess the situation, provide support and guidance, and determine the best course of action.
And seeking help early can make a huge difference in the long run.
It can.
But amidst all these challenges and potential issues, it's important to remember that adolescent psychotherapy isn't just about fixing problems. It's about empowering teenagers to thrive.
That's a key takeaway. We've covered a lot of ground. Exploring the intricacies of adolescent development and the various challenges they might face. But while understanding these challenges is important, the heart of successful therapy lies in the relationship between the therapist and the teenager.
It seems like we've explored so many facets of therapy for kids and teens. But the therapeutic relationship itself is something we haven't really discussed yet. It feels like that connection between the therapist and the teenager is where all these techniques and insights really come to life.
You're absolutely right. It's the foundation upon which everything else is built. Therapy isn't just about applying strategies. It's about creating a genuine human connection, a space where the teenager feels seen, heard, and understood.
That makes a lot of sense. But creating that kind of connection with a teenager, especially one who might be hesitant or resistant, can't be easy.
It's not.
What are some of the key ingredients that go into building a strong therapeutic relationship with adolescents?
Empathy is absolutely essential. Teenagers need to feel that the therapist genuinely understands their experiences, their struggles, their unique perspective on the world. It's not about agreeing with their choices or condoning their behavior. It's about acknowledging the validity of their feelings. And letting them know they're not alone in what they're going through.
So it's about creating a space where they feel safe to express themselves without fear of judgment.
Exactly.
How does the therapist convey that kind of empathy? Especially when teenagers aren't always the best at expressing themselves verbally.
It goes beyond just listening. It's about reflecting back what you're hearing, both verbally and non-verbally. Showing them that you're truly present and engaged. It's about tuning into their emotional state and letting them know you're with them on their journey.
So it's like holding up a mirror to their emotions. Helping them feel seen and validated, even when they're struggling to put those feelings into words. But teenagers are also incredibly perceptive.
They are.
They can spot inauthenticity a mile away. Authenticity is another crucial ingredient. Teenagers can quickly sense if someone is being fake or putting on a professional facade. Therapists need to be genuine, allowing their own personality to shine through.
Exactly.
It makes sense that teenagers would be more likely to open up to someone who feels real and relatable. Not just a distant authority figure. But how does a therapist balance that authenticity with maintaining professional boundaries?
It's not about blurring boundaries or sharing personal details inappropriately. It's about bringing your humanness into the room, showing the teenager that you're a real person who understands the complexities of life, someone who's been there too. That kind of authenticity fosters trust, which is the bedrock of any therapeutic relationship.
And trust is essential for teenagers to feel comfortable being vulnerable, sharing their deepest fears and struggles without feeling judged or misunderstood.
Exactly.
But building that trust takes time. Right?
It does.
It's not something that happens overnight.
It's earned through consistency, empathy, and genuine respect for the teenager's autonomy.
And it's important to remember that respect is a two-way street.
It is.
What do you mean by that?
Well, therapists respect the teenager's choices, boundaries, and their right to make their own decisions.
Yeah.